Hey, basketball fans, welcome to another episode of Around the Rim, which used to be your favorite women's basketball podcast. Now we're your favorite WNBA show on YouTube. Hello. Yes, we have moved platforms. We're super excited. Terrika and I are elated to be showing you our faces every week. We will have new episodes every Wednesday. I am now the co-host with the co-host, Terrika Foster-Brasby, who I feel like has always been a co-host, right, T?
What's funny about that is, remember when we were like on a search for a co-host? Like we probably had a revolving door between Chanae and Dev, and we had Sydney Colson on the show a couple of times. Like we were just revolving for a minute.
And you were right here the whole time. It was like, we got tea. Like, let's do this. If you missed our first episode, you can still go back and watch. It was about the coaching change for the LA Sparks. Primarily, we talked about a couple of things, but primarily about Derek Fisher parting ways with the Sparks. So go back and check that out. But this week, we got some new fire for y'all because we are coming off of a couple of marquee matchups on ESPN. First game was between Phoenix Mercury and the Washington Mystics. Second game was Seattle Storm and Minnesota Lynx. Let's start with that second game, T, because it was very interesting. The Minnesota Lynx come in having lost their last three games. And on the other side of that, Seattle had won their last three. I'm going to talk a little bit about Seattle, but I'm going to let you start on Minnesota because I feel like the laundry list of things coming into that game that needed to go right for Minnesota to win was very long. It's like they don't have Sylvia Fowles, in case you guys missed it.
Nope.
Sylvia is out with a knee injury. There's a cartilage injury, which we hope is not too bad because this is Sylvia's last season in the WNBA. She's announced that she's retiring after the season. So we're hoping that she can return, but cartilage is never good. So they're without Syl. They were missing Kayla McBride the game before with a foot injury. Mariah Jefferson. I mean, this is a Lynx team that has gone through it all, seen it all, the roster turnover. But T, where do you kind of feel like Minnesota is now?
I honestly feel a little bit encouraged after watching last night's game, simply because of everything you named in terms of everything that had been going wrong for this team. And they hadn't really been defending the three well coming into this game, which we know Seattle is a team that loves to shoot the three, right? So I was like, this is going to be really scary for Minnesota. It could get ugly very fast, but it didn't. Kayla McBride ended up playing and she was lights out as always. I've always been a fan of Kayla McBride, but like I am now like on Team K-Mac, like at a whole nother level at this point because the girl is just fire and she doesn't miss. And I absolutely love to see that. I think I also got a little bit excited about this team after seeing Coach Cheryl Reeve, right? So at the end of last night's game, Cheryl Reeve was, and she's always been one of those coaches who reminds me a lot of Tom Izzo, right? No matter how good you are, no matter how well you perform, you can always do better. I'm never happy on the sideline, right? Like that's Coach Reeve. And so in last night's presser, she was certainly encouraged about the performance of the team. She talked a little bit about how doing the little things well throughout the course of the game played towards Minnesota's favor. And that was what she was looking to see. And it also made me think, this is a team that every year in, year out, we say Minnesota finds a way to win and they find a way to sneak themselves into the postseason, regardless of how they start. I didn't really feel that way about this team from the very beginning. As you mentioned, there were some point guard position changes this season that really made me question the direction of this team. Losing Sylvia Fowles, starting the season on a losing streak, which this is a team that you don't see that. This isn't what Minnesota is known for. This isn't their identity. And so I was a bit concerned, but I don't think it's too late to turn their season around. And I just think last night really gave us an indication of what this team could be. Again, Seattle, right? They've got way more weapons than, the average. And so it makes sense that they weren't able to pull it out. But to keep it an 81-79 game, it's got to be encouraging if you're a Minnesota fan.
Yeah. And here's what I'll say. When you look at the roster, it's going to take some time for them offensively to gel. They're just getting Demiris Dantas back. We just mentioned a couple of moving pieces that have been in and out, like retooling your entire offense after losing Sylvia Fowles. That's a lot. So I think early on, they're going to have to rely on their defense. And that's what we saw in the first half. I mean, they had a halftime lead and we saw defensive pressure from Rhyne Jefferson. Like that's literally what she's known for. We just saw a team that can be locked in on that in the floor. And I think that's what we often forget about with Minnesota is they have always had star power. We don't even have to name them. Rebecca Brunson, Maya Moore, Simone Augustus, Lindsay Whalen, Sylvia Fowles. But they've also always been a very good defensive team. And oftentimes when a team just hasn't been able to either find that chemistry or the right personnel or whatever in the rotation, you can rely on your defense. And I think they saw what they're capable of in the first half of that game. Now, mind you, Seattle was without Sue Bird. Ball doesn't move the same. Sue was missing the game because of a non-COVID illness. But I still don't want to take away from what Minnesota could accomplish in the future if they really hang their hat on the defensive end. Yeah. I missed what happened with Avina Westbrook, but I saw that she played 2 minutes and 47 seconds. I was doing a million things and about to fly out after the game, but I still think that she could be a key cog for them. And someone that I love her pickup. I love Mariah Jefferson, obviously when healthy, right? So you want her to be able to play Mariah Jefferson style of play. Huge Jessica Shepard fan. Love what Bridget Carlton has done with her career. And listen, you ain't got to go back in the Atlanta archives to know how I feel about Demirs Dantes. But again, coming back from a very serious injury, trying to work her way back. So to me, this roster just is not really at full tilt right now. And even if they don't get Sylvia back, do I feel like they can be a playoff team? I actually do. And again, it's because of the culture, the identity, and what they can do on the defensive end.
I'm a little bit nervous. I want to say that again, I was very encouraged by what I saw last night, specifically defensively, but this is the worst start in their franchise history, right? And this season is going to go by so completely quick. I mean, think about it. Even right now, we're already over a third of the way throughout the season, and teams are only getting better. They're only learning how to play better. And granted, you mentioned that against last night, there was no Sue Bird, but I got to say, Epiphany Prince came off the bench and was like, I'm going to give you this 15. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to play it. I'm going to shoot. So when you get teams that are learning how to play together, you can't play catch up midway through. And I think that this is where Minnesota has found themselves in a position where they're playing catch up midway through. And I just don't think that the teams out West and not even out West, considering that this is a 1 to 8 year this year, right? So regardless of your conference affiliation, there are so many good teams that are gelling at the right time that if Minnesota can't figure out that chemistry issue soon enough, it just may be too late for them to make the necessary adjustments to get in.
It may be, but they're only 4 spots out of the final playoff spot, 4 games. They're 4 games behind LA, who has 12 losses, has 8 losses, and Minnesota has 12. We know how momentum is. It can shift. And, it doesn't take much for a team to catch fire. And we're only about a little over 1/3 of the way through the season. I agree. It's going to be hard. Teams are getting better. We're seeing that at the top, right? Like the separation of the Connecticut's, the Chicago's, the Las Vegas's, I would put Washington in there, like teams that are really starting to separate themselves. But I am a little bit concerned about Seattle. I will say that. And not concerned about them making the playoffs, but concerned about them hitting their stride at the right time, right? While everyone else is building on chemistry that they are having early in the season, the number of games that Seattle's roster has missed due to COVID, due to injury. I think Mercedes Russell was also out last night, again with injury. And so you start to think like this team is not really coming together as quickly as I thought. Even in the games they have won, it's been a little bit of a struggle. Now, they're incorporating Gabby Williams. I think the world of their bench, though. Epiphany Prince, Jantel Lavender, like Breon January, the bench. And we saw that from Epiphany Prince last night. Like, she still got it, right?
Yeah.
So we know what they can do. But the thing that Noelle Quinn has really said from the beginning is, I don't worry about our offense. It's really our defense. But there have been some late game situations and some possessions where I'm like, this is not Seattle. Whether it be turnovers or, just things that you don't see from them on the offensive end. So while I do agree that I love that their defense feeds into their offense, I do think that I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about the continuity and the chemistry of the offense. However, with everyone back on the floor and healthy, it may not take long for them to get to full tilt.
Well, if we're going to stick to the theme of having concern, I don't even know if concern is the word I would use to describe how I feel about Phoenix right now. So in the other part of that doubleheader last night, the Phoenix Mercury went to Washington to take on the Mystics, where the Mystics took an 83-65 game. It snaps the 7-game losing streak in the series against Phoenix. But as amazing as Washington looked at moments, that's how dry to me Phoenix looked at moments. Now, granted, I was very happy to see Diamond DeShield have a breakout game. She had 21 points. This is her third 20-plus point game this season. She only had 3 all of last season. I understand that she played on a different team last season. There were different expectations from her, but I think it's encouraging to see Diamond DeShield really find herself in play. But I am worried about Phoenix. Like, I am legit worried.
Yes.
I understand, as we, spoke about in depth on our last episode, that there are emotional factors, there are factors dealing with coaching, there are factors dealing with team chemistry, and, how that is off the court team chemistry, because that certainly plays a role in how you are, how you gel on the court, regardless of how many times they play together. But I am legit concerned about Phoenix, and I don't know if this is something that can also be fixed. I mean, last night, I think that they did a great job when they would get out and run, but at the half court, whenever they would slow the ball down, Washington was like, we got this. We're going to take advantage of this. And so, those are the things that, again, as we're seeing teams begin to separate themselves, Phoenix isn't doing themselves any justice.
See, and I would disagree. I actually think that Phoenix is trending in the right direction. It's hard to win at DC. They had just won an overtime game at Washington on Sunday. And when you look back, they won that game against Washington. They beat the Dream at home by 2, a team that drug them in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. They beat the Sparks, and the Sun only beat them by 4. And quite honestly, Phoenix should have won that game. The game before that was their loss to Chicago Sky. And that's where I think we saw a change in the Phoenix Mercury. Diana Taurasi was ejected. And it just looked like something happened to that team in that moment, where they rallied behind her ejection, played hard, didn't win against Chicago, but you saw something happen. And what I think is happening is, number one, the Skylar Diggins-Smith effect. Like, the girl is a monster.
Skylar is balling.
Like,
she is balling.
She's killing, right? Like, period, point blank. And so when you have just a determined, resilient, like, hard-headed leader like Skylar, who's like, we're going to win, period. She's carried them in some moments. Diana has played well. She did not play well against Washington in this last loss, but she's played well in some stretches. Tina Charles is just coming back from injury, but you notice that there's a difference with them when she's on the floor. They need her, right? They don't have any Brittany Griner. What concerns me for Phoenix is their depth. And that's, to me, what the difference was in Washington, because DC had 30 points off of the bench. Like, Mike Tebow was able to throw some players, and this, T, like, when it comes to a scouting report, you're going to have 1 through 5 on lock defensively. Like, okay, I know what Skylar likes to do. I don't know with Diana Taurasi, whatever. But then you need a couple of bench players to come in, and you might get confused about what their strengths are. Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, Elizabeth Williams, like Maisha Hines-Allen. We're seeing that happen, for Washington, with the depth of their scoring and the versatility. And we're not seeing that in Phoenix. Like, that is my bigger concern for this team. But I'm not worried. I think they're actually trending in the right direction. It takes a while to incorporate those pieces with Diamond and Tina. But I actually feel so much better about where Phoenix is now. Now, Washington, what I will say about them really quickly is that they have a tough situation with Elena Deladon's injury, because you are so happy to have her back out on the court, but you just don't know when she's going to be there. And even with the rotation that Tebow had, where he was, playing her some games and then giving her some rest, that still changes the dynamic in the continuity of a team, as you're trying to kind of get your bearings, right? Like you're trying to, establish, okay, this is where we can get shots against this team. This is what we do, whatever. It's going to change dramatically, whether or not Elena Delle Donne is on the floor or not. In particular, their 3-point percentages are much better when she's on the floor for obvious reasons. Yes, she can shoot the three, spacing changes, all of that. So to me, when it comes to Washington, I think they're going to be right there in the conversation for a championship. Alicia Clark looks great. However, I do believe that it's going to be tough to manage who's in the lineup and who's not as the season goes on, and for them to really be at their best. So you're just hoping that at some point Elena Delle Donne can get off of the restrictions.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think Holly mentioned it last night in her report that Elena taking an additional day off that wasn't even a scheduled day for her. It just plays to, what you are alluding to, that it's just such a different team when Washington, when Elena's on the court versus when she's not. But I will say the bright spot of that lineup is certainly Shakira Austin. I mean, Shakira has come into this league and she has been immediately thrown some of the toughest assignments that veterans struggle with. When you are tasked with guarding Tina Charles and you hold her to 3 of 8 from the field, like that says something about how you're able to mature and how you're able to adjust. She's had to guard Sylvia Fowles. She's had to play a little bit against Candace. Like you've had to come into this league and literally get your versatility tested, as well as basically get your composure tested. How poised are you in these moments, having some of these tough assignments? And she walked away with her second double-double. And so I think with the issues that Washington sees themselves with in terms of not knowing the future of Elena Delle Donne in terms of her health and her ability to play more, I think you feel a little bit better when you know that you got a rookie in Shakira Austin who can certainly step in and definitely make some plays for you and be as impactful as she has been so far this season.
Absolutely. And I would add to that, I think Washington not only has depth, but they could go down to Kennedy Burke, who I wanted to mention her name because I think she has been a key cog in this, Rui Machida. But you're right about Shakira Austin. Like you're kind of seeing, okay, if Delle Donne's not on the floor, can we run some offense through Shakira? Can we make her our focal point? Like it's interesting. You're seeing, obviously Elena Delle Donne, we hope she plays another 10 years, but Shakira Austin really soon, next couple of years, maybe by the end of the season, could be ready to step in and really fill some big shoes if needed.
Yeah.
And again, hopefully she doesn't have to do that, but I said this about the rookies in the WNBA just to change gears and kind of finish off with this, like 2 rookies at the top right now to me, Shakira Austin and Rhyne Howard. The difference between the two, in my opinion, Shakira Austin has a greater upside. And what I mean by that is Shakira is more, I would say, raw of a player in terms of where she will be, right? Like imagine what she's going to be like when she's shooting the 3 consistently. Imagine, as she gets stronger. Like there's so many aspects of her game that I feel like her upside is crazy. Like literally could be dominating this league after the next few years. Rhyne Howard's ready to dominate the league right now. Right, like today, right. And so Ryan is already a more skilled player, a more, I would say, polished player. And obviously they played 2 different positions where Ryan has the ball in her hands more often. Shakira has to kind of get hers through the offense, but that's the difference between those 2 players. Ryan is just now ready to be the one. Shakira Austin is not there, but when she gets it and puts it all together, like literally I could see her being a future MVP. I really believe that, as I could Rhyne Howard. But those 2 to me have just really separated themselves. And that's the difference in where I feel like where they are and where they will be one day.
Yeah, no.
I mean, hell, Rhyne Howard's in the MVP conversation now.
I was just took the words right out of my mouth because I was just getting ready to say we're recording this on Wednesday, and later tonight I have Connecticut and Atlanta, and I can't tell you how excited I am to see Rhyne Howard because that girl's in the MVP conversation today. Okay, she's like, and what's interesting is I saw her a little bit in the preseason live, and I was like, girl, no one told us you were going to look like we knew you were going to look good. We didn't know you were going to look like this, right?
But can I tell you what the word on the street is real quick?
Give me the tea.
The word on the street is that Ryan, and this is not from her at all. This is from people that are trusted sources that I feel like know the game of basketball. People feel like she was bored in college.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can believe it.
Just want to throw that out there. Like while everyone was questioning her motor, she was just ready for the game to step up.
I believe it.
And we see that whatever it is, the game has stepped up. Like the effort, the everything, and she doesn't have to do everything. She's not exhausted. But anyway, go ahead, T. I just want to throw it out there.
I can believe, not only can I believe that, but I think this is also a prime situation of someone going to the right spot, right? And this isn't to say that Rhyne Howard would not be who she is anywhere else, but her going to Atlanta, new head coach, reformed roster. I think that she's just in the perfect situation right now to not only grow to the potential that we always saw, but to really get out and just do it and be about it right now. Right. Yeah. So that certainly, I know on the NBA side, we talk a lot about this when we look at Andrew Wiggins as we're in the finals right now, about how being in the right situation can really make a difference in how you form your career. And I see that so much for Rhyne Howard, just being with Tanisha Wright. I think she just helps to just really help to mold her into a star. But there are a couple more rookies, right, that I think have the potential to really stand out and have done a great job so far in shining. And I'll be honest with you, LaChina, as talented as I saw this rookie class being, I wasn't exactly sure who outside of, Rhyne Howard and Shakira Austin, I wasn't sure who was going to be the ones to really like separate themselves, or if this class was going to be like a class that was going to be immediately impactful. Mm-hmm. And I think that they have absolutely done that. I look at NaLyssa Smith and Queen Egbo in Indiana, and I'll throw Emily Inkster in there too. But I just think like this is a young core, a young team. Destiny Henderson, who knows why that girl was a second round pick, easily could have been a first. And
I have some theories on that, but we'll have to talk about that another time. Go ahead.
We can't talk about that another time, but I look at them and I say, even coming off injury, she's so impactful. NaLyssa Smith, so impactful on the team. Destiny Henderson, coming from a Dawn Staley program where a championship program at that. You understand championship pedigree. You understand what it means to be a leader of other players, of women on the squad. And I see those immediate impacts and differences when I'm watching them play. And so, if I had to list a top 5 rookies to watch right now, obviously Rhyne Howard would be my 1, Shakira Austin would be my number 2, NaLyssa Smith would be my number 3. My number 4 would be Rebecca Gardner out of Chicago. Sis is balling. She's 31 years old, one of the oldest rookies that is in the league. She used to share that with Yvonne Anderson, but unfortunately Yvonne was recently cut from Connecticut. However, Rebecca Gardner, she's playing behind Kalia Copper as her backup. And when she gets in the game doesn't slow down. The game doesn't stop when she's in there. She's able to make plays. She's able to call. I love looking at Rebecca Gardner. So she's definitely my number 4. And my number 5 is Queen Egbo. Queen ain't scared of nobody. She not.
I know. I love me nobody. But I'll have to say this. I think Gardner would be my 3rd. I'm going to put her in 3rd. I've been so beyond impressed with how she's impacted the game. Like her length, her tenacity on defense. She can shoot. She's smart. Consistent effort. She's been put on the best perimeter scorer on other teams and have held her own. And Allie Quigley's been off to a slow start. And so that has given her the opportunity for some minutes. I know we have to wrap. Before we go, each of us go through the 4 teams we just talked about from the marquee matchups and give one player on each team that you think is going to be an X factor. We got to do it quick. Mine is going to be Phoenix, Shea Petty. No doubt. Like Shea Petty, she's playing well. I'm not as worried about their depth, though they do need Sophie Cunningham. Washington, my key cog, I would say, is Elena Delle. Like, again, how they handle her coming in and out, I think is going to be the storyline for Washington. And then for Minnesota, Ariel Powers, she's a superstar. She just got to play like it. Like, to me, Ariel is one of the toughest guards in this league. When Powers is on point, Minnesota is going to be at their best. And for Seattle, I think it's Gabby Williams. As she continues to find the level of comfort on the offensive end, to me, that's going to be a game changer. And that team like really hitting their stride. I mean, it would have been hard for her to have a rhythm with everybody in and out anyway, but I know what she's capable of offensively, watching her play internationally. So it'll be Gabby.
Well, two of the two you mentioned, we both share, which is Gabby Williams. I absolutely, her and Jewel Lloyd to me are the X factors on the team. Jewel, I feel like sometimes Jewel forget that she's a superstar. Sometimes I feel like she forgets she's the gold mamba. And so that would definitely be my X factor for Seattle. Aerial Powers again for Minnesota, because Aerial Powers is one of the best guards that I've seen. And as a Michigan State fan, I've watched Aerial Powers almost her entire career. So love Aerial. She definitely is someone who, as a matter of fact, in the game against Washington, Aerial Powers was unstoppable. That's the area that we need all the time. Okay. For Phoenix, my X factor is Tina Charles. I want to see her continue to get better. She gave you 16 points last night. I think as long as she can continue to kind of step up and fill the additional role, that Tina is Tina. So that's my three. Which team did I miss? Who am I missing?
You said Washington?
Washington. X factor for Washington. I'm gonna actually go Myisha Hines-Allen.
Ooh, that's a good one. Can I change mine?
No, too late.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Myisha Hines-Allen,
absolutely right.
Sure.
All right, fans. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Around the Rim on YouTube. Remember that you can follow us on Twitter at Around the Rim Pod, even though we're no longer a podcast. Or you can email us at aroundtherim@gmail.com. I am on Twitter at LaChina Robinson. Terrika is at She Knows Sports, and we will see you guys next Wednesday. Watch WNBA.